it's Claire the Fairy Whisperer. In this sparkly whispering with Laura Walthers, she reveals her fairy photographs of real fairies and talks about how fairies communicate with us through her photography and lots more. So stay tuned and please like and subscribe. Thank you. Hi,
Hello.
hi Laura. Hi, I'm Claire Casey and I'm with Laura Walthers today. And she is a wonderful nature photographer that photographs real fairies and she connects the energies in nature and she's got some wonderful things to share with us today. So, hello Laura, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm very honored to be here, Claire. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And I'd like to just start with what are your earliest memories or earliest experiences with the fairy realm?
Okay, well, I will say that as a child I had glimpses because I was raised in the Midwest, and there they had the fireflies, would come by, and a lot of times they were not blinking, and I would chase them. And so there were other little things too, but my real first encounter was in 2003, which was in the Olympic National Forest in a state, Washington, here in the United States. And I was with my husband and my daughter. And so I'll give you a little kind of setup to this. I've got visuals too, so it'll be fun. We were staying in a cabin, and I decided to go out the next night, or that night, before they went to bed, to take a walk. I was just kind of like, you know how we are, we're guided to do things. Yeah. And so I kind of went into this forest that was right out next to the cabin, and I looked down, and there's like these soft pine needles, so I followed them, and then I saw this huge tree, and I said to it, I said, may I walk in your forest? I asked, and I got kind of a little tingle in my body, and I thought, okay. So, and I gave it a hug, and then I kind of went a little bit further to this opening. It had trees and kind of bushes around it, but it was like umbrella with branches. So I just went in this opening, and I stood there, and I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I could hear a song in my head. And I thought, oh. And so I started singing with the song. And then I stopped, and then I realized it was the fairies. And so, so I thought, okay. So then I closed my eyes, and I could feel them. I couldn't see them. But it's kind of like, when you're blindfolded and people are standing around you, but they're there, kind of that feeling. And so all of a sudden I kind of got the sadness in my heart, and I said, well, why do I feel this way, and why am I here? Why are you here? What is this about? And they said, well, we want you to help us. And I'm like, okay. And I said, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, we want you to help humanity understand we are really here, we exist, and to help the relationship become closer. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of a big deal. So I was like, okay. I didn't know a lot about fairies then, other than the regular fairy tales and things that I learned along the way. And so I said, well, you're gonna have to show me. You have to show me something really big that I can use as a tool to help me explain that or expose that to the world. So then the next morning, my daughter and my husband and I went on a hike in the Olympic National Forest. It's a rainforest, so it's beautiful. It's got mossy trees and everything. And we came to this tree here that I'm showing. I don't know if I've got, can you see it pretty good?
Oh, wow.
And so I only took two pictures, which is kind of hindsight. I would have taken a lot more if I'd known what I was doing.
That's amazing.
But what was interesting is You see how the leaf is turned in this one?
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see that, yeah.
And so it wasn't windy or anything, so I knew the tree was talking to me.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Well, when I was standing there looking at that tree, this energy of just like sweet, warm honey just came through my body, and I was like in this bliss. And I looked at my husband and I said, well, do you feel this? And he's like, yeah, he was totally out of it too. And so, but then when I looked up, I saw this golden light around us, and I thought, wow. So luckily I had my camera, right? So I set it up, and it was an old 35 millimeter camera, film camera, so not digital. And I took those two pictures. Well, what I didn't know at the time was that that specific picture, which now I call the enchanted tree, had the fairies had opened up their realm, and I took a photo of the fairy realm. And so this was my initiation and
Mm.
my you know, the first real encounter. And so in the tree I discovered all kinds of little things, which I've kind of blown up here. So like in the middle of the tree there's a little tree elf, and his name is
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Carolyn right here. See him? He's
Yeah.
sitting on a branch. And
Oh.
this one is like, you know, his eyes, his nose, mouth. He's the grandfather, or the green man, some people like to call him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then,
Yeah, I can see him over on the right of
yeah,
that.
right here. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And to me, it looked like a little person stood there as well from here.
Yeah,
So,
there is all kinds of stuff in there. I'm just
yeah,
pointing out the main
yeah, yeah.
because it's all, this is all, and so then down here, this is a nature sprite. Some
Mm,
people call it fairies, but they're really just, they're nature sprites.
mm-hmm.
Um, and her wings are down. And so all of this is fairy. The golden light in this photograph is not, you know, sunlight. It's their fairy energy. So it was amazing. So that was my first encounter. And then that's what my first book was about that I wrote. It's on my website. It's
Yeah.
called Life in Nature Revealed.
Oh,
And it
yeah,
tells that story. You know, I sent one to you.
yeah. It's an amazing book. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, it tells the whole story of that and more. Shows you, introduces you to the fairies and elementals and that. And so, yeah, that I would say that is my first encounter, and that was my initiation to what I'm doing now. That was, you know, that was what, 13 years ago or more. So it's been a long road with what I'm doing now. I do a lot of other things, but it opened my door. It opened my eyes. And just to hold the energy of fairy and to go from that point on was, you know, a lot of releasing. I had to really love myself more and allow myself to hold their energy. So there were a lot of steps along that way of evolvement into that gift. The gift came, but then I had to hold that gift, and you know.
Yeah, yeah, and that sounds similar to my experience. So it's almost as if sounds like you're talking about this initiation process
Uh-huh.
that you go through with the fairies. It's like you say, it's really exciting to have that
Oh yeah.
first experience, and then it's like, well, now the real work begins.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it
So
changes and evolves more, and then you know it's like, whoa, it's been wonderful though, huh? It's just
yeah,
wonderful. I feel blessed every day to be that person that came here to do that. And I know my soul came here to do this. So that's reassuring too. You know, you kind of know part of what you're here to do, but it
yeah.
changes too. You know, it broadens, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so for people that perhaps haven't experienced fairies, um, can you just talk about some of the ways? I know you're just talking about the golden light. Some of the ways that other ways that you've experienced fairies that might help other people to know what to look for.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Good question. Yeah, you know, one of the things I really feel is important when you go, like I would say out in nature, wherever that is. It could be a garden, it could be a park, it could be forest. Um, it's really trusting your imagination, really. You know, like I think when people first see glimpses, maybe they think, oh, that's just, you know, my imagination. Well, that's them talking to you because they do it through your doorway of imagination, and that is the fifth dimension, you know. So they don't come like in a solid way so much a lot. They might I think a lot of what, when I used to have my first experiences, it would be the faces in the trees started showing up, right? And sometimes I catch orbs, you know, in the forest. But actually, it was where I started not only opening my heart to it, which is real important, through the heart, but also trusting my intuition. And then our, what we call the third eye starts to open more. And which is connected to the pineal gland, and it's where we get our information. We get the light comes in. And so when I started trusting that and allowing my imagination to be real, like even with the enchanted tree, I was seeing things and I'm like, they would actually come in and then go out because it's a multidimensional photograph. All my photographs are what they call multidimensional.
Yeah.
I don't always talk about that, but what that means is they're portals and they're doorways into other frequencies and dimensions. So like for instance, on this tree that I just showed you, it's the enchanted tree right here. See if I can get it up there. See where the moss is split right here?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the original photograph, it wasn't like that.
Oh, okay.
So the action, it represents, and that's one of the things the elementals and the fairies wanted me to teach humanity, was that we are multidimensional. So through their photographs, they're showing you that they are, but we are. We're all connected. We're all one. So in my presentations, I'll bring up a photograph, and it'll actually they can even come in right then and go out. It like happens in real time because it's a multidimensional space. So it's kind of an interesting concept for some, you know, like what does that mean? Well, we're not just human, for one. We're way beyond being just a human body, and we exist in different planes of existence. And so the fairies are really, that brings me to this picture. I have to talk about it because it was a real it was an evolved picture that came to me, and then it taught me a lot. So I don't know if you can, this one is,
yeah.
So I took this in Mount Shasta, okay?
Oh,
And this is the waters flowing from the mountain right here, all this water here. Now, up here, let's see if you can see, trying to get it good. See this wizard guy up here that showed up in the water?
I see him. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, so he's more of an angelic type of being, okay? So it isn't just fairies that come in, you know, sometimes you'll get different levels. And so, but the interesting thing about this photograph is when I first took it, all this water was covering this part of the photograph. So one day I was what I call, I was looking at it on my computer and I was feeding it energy, and all of a sudden I saw the water just start fading out, and they showed me what was underneath. This happened in real time in front of my computer. I was sitting there. And I was like, what? And then I thought, okay, they're showing me that everything is, you know, multidimensional, even in, you know, we think, so pretty soon our reality, we're going to see more of this. So that's kind of why I feel I'm a part of a way shower of that, where I show you that it actually exists. And I can't go back to the original because it's already happened. Like, but every photo that was, you know, whether it was in a book or print or anything, they all change at the same time. Because not only is it multidimensional, but we're quantum, which means everything is, you know, everything's connected. So So yeah, that was kind of a real big deal for me when that happened, and I thought, okay, they want to really go levels with this. They want to go beyond, you know, what people assume is just 3D or 4D, you know. So yeah, it's a very special picture. It even had violet in the water, and Mount Shasta known to have Saint Germain is there, and his you know violet ray that he works with. So yeah, it was a very special picture. I call it the angelic wizard, but you see the horse right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see the horse. Oh,
But
yeah.
he's like holding the horse.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like he's riding, maybe riding the horse.
Yeah. So I know that symbolizes, you know, spirit, some type of, yeah. So that was a real special one too.
Yeah. I was
So,
going to ask you about this multi-dimensional quality, because I'm experienced that through my photos as well. Like you say, experience photos
right.
changing, or maybe you see a face or a figure one time and then another time it's not there. That sort
Yeah.
of thing. Or one of the things that I'd be interested to know, actually, one of the things that I do is I do these mirror pictures where I
Yes, I've seen them. They're great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I did one the other day where I saw it was just like a face, but it was almost like half a face in a
Mm-hmm.
tree. And I
Mm-hmm.
photographed it and I mirrored it. And in a lot of these images, there are other beings in the image.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It will be like the face, but then like a little fairy being in the middle, like around the brow or something, around
Uh-huh.
the
Uh-huh.
eye. Um, so it's really interesting to me that I'm photographing things in such a way that I'm capturing these images. So
Like they're
when,
almost, well, I think what happens
yeah,
is, at least this has happened to me, is when they work with you, like you have fairy guides that work with
yeah,
you. So when
mm,
they create a language with you, and
mm,
everybody has a different language, you know. And so like I feel they're telling me this is part of your language with them. So they know you're going to expose them in that way, like, you know, a photograph
mm,
or a pattern. So they're working with you. So they actually come in so that when it's multiplied, it's
yeah,
more revealed, you know?
yeah,
And because a lot of times in my photographs, I would get just one eye, not the other eye. They'd show a face kind of, and then, because it's hard for
mm,
them, right?
mm,
It's not easy for them to be in form. They're light like us in higher dimensions. So,
mhm,
but I one time I asked, why do you just come in with one eye, you know? And then they said, well, you know, we really are seeing through the one eye. So it represents the third eye in a way, because we're really visually on a higher level. We're not seeing with the physical eyes, we're seeing with the third eye. But
mhm.
then the physical eyes, you know, interpret it in this reality. But I thought, okay, but you know, it is nice to have both eyes, really, you know. So I did kind of ask that. They do it more now than they used to. But no, your work is really lovely. I really feel like that's a way they're communicating with you, and just keep doing it. I mean, if it's your passion,
Mm,
and
mm.
you know, it's beautiful. And I like how um, multidimensional they look. You know,
Yeah,
yeah. If
yeah,
you could even see, yeah, I've actually taken pictures and not done it with your program or whatever you
mm,
use, but just done that in the you know, photography
mm,
or in Photoshop, and gotten amazing things. And the energies are just, I think it helps us bring them through that way, you know? It helps
yeah,
the way to do it.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like you, I think it's helping people to see that there's more than just the three dimensions,
exactly. Yep, that's it. Yeah.
and that
That's a
there
good
are,
reason.
yeah, like almost like they're stacked. They appear in our 3D almost like they're stacked on top of each other, so that's just showing the way that their dimension is in our
Yeah,
reality. That's the way I,
yeah,
yeah,
yes,
that way.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I was just wondering. what you feel, the sort of messages that you've had have come through, maybe in recent times, about how the fairies want to work with us to look after us, how
So,
they,
you mean,
what they're trying, what they're reaching out to us to work with them, you know, the ways that they want us to work with them in protecting Mother Earth.
well, yeah. Well, of course, the obvious one is,
Mm,
be kind to nature. Don't put chemicals on me. I
mm,
mean,
mm,
don't um, put them in your gardens, and don't put them in, down your drains. And that's really the biggest thing. I feel like, the chemicals.
mm,
That's a main one. But you know what I get, and I've gotten this recently, and it's actually it's kind of an old ways, but do ceremony and celebrate earth. Celebrate the joy and the life in earth. Like one time I was sitting by a tree, and this was in a different house in the Midwest where I lived, and all of a sudden I heard pop, 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 all these hundreds of pops. And I'm like, wow, because I had a tree there named Sal. He was in my yard, and him and I did a lot of work together. We actually worked grids around the area. And I said, Sal, what is that? What is that? And he said, I just budded. And he let me into his energy field, and I heard him bud in the tree. It was amazing. But it was simple but profound. And so to me, I was celebrating with him life, like he just burst out and had all these buds come out, right? It was like pop, pop, pops. So but the key is, and I want to make sure I said this today, was allowing that connection of you that is fairy, that is connected to all. So until that essence, like people say, well, how do you see fairies and all that? Well, I didn't grow up like some people where, you just see them everywhere and you're clairvoyant. That's a gift you were born with.
mm,
My gifts have come in differently. I do see them though, but in different ways at different times and randomly sometimes. But what got me there was to actually allow myself to believe that everything is universally connected.
mm,
Now, once I thought that thought, that's one thing, but then to become that thought, it becomes more of a practice. It becomes, don't be afraid to go up and hug a tree, or be yourself in nature, and be crazy a little bit and run around and play,
mm,
So it's like become that part of fairy that you are in the universal quantum, whatever, connection. And then when you become that energy, that you feel that essence all the time. So you don't have to worry about what you need to know about fairies or how to look or do. I feel like everything I do every day now is connected to everything. So like, you know, whatever, I could go out and do something and ask the fairies to show up in my photographs. Maybe they may or may not, depends on what they're doing. But I have to let go of all expectations of that. Just allow it to happen. We know the answers already. So being in love with yourself is being in love with the fairies. The more
yeah,
you love yourself, the more the joy you can bring into your body, the more you can receive more light, the more you can connect to everything, the more sensitive you are to everything. So
mm,
you're going to feel more, you're going to experience more. And
mm,
then you're going to radiate that out, and then that will radiate back. So it's kind of a circle cycle thing always, right? It's
yeah,
always a circle. It's
yeah.
always never ending, always in this continuum of love and light. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, it did. And I was interested in what you said about this radiating of love, and this love is radiated back. It's like a continuous cycle, because there are some
Mhm.
people maybe still that have fears of the fairy
Yeah,
realm, connecting with the fairy realm. Now,
yeah.
I mean, my experiences of love and giving, obviously giving respect and you receive respect back. I mean, what would you say about, you know, fairies, and just to sort of reassure people that there's nothing to fear?
Oh, yeah. Well, fear isn't real anyway. So
No.
false evidence appearing real, right? That's a real good one. I don't know. When you were talking about it, I was getting water for some reason, and I would say whoever is fearing the fairies to either go into a tub, or if it's nice out, if it's nice and you're at a lake or a pond or a waterfall or wherever. But water tends to be a cleanser. That's comfortable for whatever's attracted to them. But ask the water and the fairies that are in the water, because there are, to just cleanse them of that fear. And because we always feel better right after a shower or a bath because we've cleansed. But you need to go a little deeper with it, and like a self-baptismal thing, you just want to rid yourself of that old programming and ask for it to come up, to be looked at, and then release it, and then fill it with love and joy, and then say, now show me a way that I can become more of more fairy-like. And then maybe his friend will say, oh, you should read this book, or maybe there's a place somebody says, well, we should go there, and my daughter was the one that told me to go to that forest to take an enchanted tree. I had no idea what I was going to encounter that day. That was totally random, but it was profound. And which, we don't need to know. I think a lot of it is, if you fear it, then look at it without self-judgment first, is what you need to do. And so say, well, where does that come from, that fear? Does that come from other people's experiences that they had that might be fearful? But, in this moment, you can create what you want with that reality. So whatever happened yesterday or last week or whatever, that's my belief. I live in the moment, and I live in that quantum energy where I can create anything, really. I mean, if it's not meant to be, it's not going to happen. And sure, we do have limitations depending on what we're creating. But seriously, that's the new future. Is this energy now is about that, is about co-creating. What is it you want to co-create? So a lot of the programming is coming up to be released. And in our bodies, you'll get an ache or a pain, and there's something maybe from another lifetime there. I've had trees help heal me with things like that. So trees are healers. And one time I was out by my apple tree, and I called in the ancestors before me. And when I brought them in, like, thanked them, the ones that were brought in the fairy energy and had them with me, it was almost like I heard this, now the circle is complete, because we've brought in the now with the whole. It's like, and so all this energy flooded in. I started actually crying. I could feel them standing around me. I was like, yeah, of course you're here helping me. I was like, wow. So, and so many magical things have happened in my latest book. I'll show you at the end, where I actually took a picture after I'd done ceremony, and the fairies, they were orbs, and they were literally holding little lanterns. And I had placed lanterns in the trees. So they were imitating what I was doing. So that's what I mean. They see what you do, like your pattern, and then they repeat that back to you. They do mirror back to you too. And I don't mean that that's kind of a double meaning for you, but they actually do. They find out what's, how they can talk to you, and then they repeat it.
I've seen that or experienced that mimicking.
Yeah.
The smiling faces in the trees, almost smiling back at you. It's incredible. Or have you experienced little gifts from the fairies?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes. Matter of fact, oh gosh, there's this one. It's kind of a cute story. There's these little squirrels that live out here, and I should get the rock. I'll get it real quick. Hold on a second. Didn't take long. Okay. Yeah, this one really touched my heart. So one day we have these little, they're called gray diggers, not gray, but they're Grey, gray diggers, and they're like squirrels, but they dig holes in the grounds, and they're kind of obnoxious, but they're so cute. And I made friends with one of them like a pet. He didn't come in the house or anything, but we, he was outside, and I'd play with him, through the windows. I'd kind of, and then he kind of like, and he'd come up to my porch, and even when he was real friendly. And so one day me and my husband went and took a walk, because I live next to a vineyard out here right now. And all of a sudden I got this icky feeling in my stomach, like, ew. And I looked at my husband and I said, I got to go back. I don't know what's going on. So we turned around and we walked back down the road, or the pathway we were on. And I look out in the street, and the little gray digger had gotten run over.
Oh.
And I was sad, of course, but so we buried him. We gave him a ceremony. So then as I came back from the walk, I came around the driveway and I looked down and I thought, what is that? And it was a little rock. I don't know if you can see it really good.
Yeah.
But it's a golden heart, and it's an agate.
Oh, wow. Not huge.
And I picked it up, and it was like they wanted me to know, we're sorry, but they loved me by giving me that rock. And that was just, that's one of many things I've gotten. But they have brought me rocks before, other rocks. I feel sometimes the actual thing they bring you has the, meaning. One time I was doing a spiritual circle in the Midwest, and they brought me 2 sodalite pieces, and those are about unity. So it was like, okay, So that was kind of special. So is there something, have they ever brought you rocks?
Yeah, I've often found stones with faces in them, almost like they have fairies in them.
Yes. Okay.
Or heart stones. So I've got on my windowsill in the bedroom, I've got lots of stones.
Yes, those are lovely. I love the heart rocks, don't you?
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
And they always,
That's like, to me, their number one symbol, bringing you the heart rock, So I wanted to mention, if it's okay, about I had this beautiful connection with the flower fairies.
Yeah.
One day, we all kind of have a bad rap, I think, at least I did, I'll speak for myself, about dandelions. And, they're weeds and they're in your yard and all that. Well, so one day my friend and I went to this field, and I told her, I said, I want to really connect with the dandelion davas, because everything has a dava. And so she goes, okay. So she went off, and I sat and I connected with it, and I took this picture right here. Well, as I was looking at this, all of a sudden the dava shows up, and this is it. This is its face right here. Here's its eye, little antler kind of.
Yeah.
It's like a lighted outline of it. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's smiling.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just amazed, and I realized that dandelions are amazingly very important, and they're very healthy. They're very rich food, the leaves, and I just love them anyway, the flowers. But yeah, my whole thing changed after I connected with, and I think that's what happens, when you really have your encounters with nature, it just changes everything, and it changes your whole being here, so that was cool. And then I had a wonderful experience with this flower. It's a morning glory. Let's see if you can, okay, so one day I was looking at this on my computer, and all of a sudden this inner circle started lighting up, and this whole
Mm.
thing started to glow.
I can
And
see
this was,
it. Yeah.
and this was, um, it's showing its soul. It's showing literally its aura.
Mm.
And it happened in real time. Like I was just looking at it. So like, like I say, my gifts aren't always like somebody else's.
Mm.
We all have different ways we express our gifts. So
Mhm.
that's why I don't worry about, I don't compare myself or worry about, whatever. I'm here, just being here right now and holding the love and light is enough.
Yeah.
But, some of us are showing others what can be the potentials.
Mm.
And that was pretty special. And a lot of times in my presentations, that will get so pink. It's like neon pink. It'll change.
It
It'll just,
literally looks like it's glowing as I'm looking at it
I know.
on my camera. It looks like it's radiating, and the fact that it's a star as well. It's in the middle of
Yeah.
the star.
It might be changing. Let me just sit here for a second and see if it'll get brighter. I don't know. I can't see it like you can, so.
It looks like to me the center is white, and then there's a very pale blue, and then it's like a yellowy gold around blue. So it's like a real
Yeah,
beautiful
they told
ball.
me that color was a new color. It's kind of almost like it's almost like a mint, yellowish mint. I'll get even closer.
Yeah,
It's pretty amazing.
it
Is
is
it blurry?
lovely.
Is it blurry or is it okay?
It's it's okay. I can still see the three colors.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it really looks like it's radiating.
It's got
That's,
some beautiful energy, yeah. So
wow.
one time, I don't have the picture with me, but I was looking at another flower, and all of a sudden I saw this like energy in the corner, and it was like it was just a shape of a head, kind of like that. Well, it was the deva. It was like this shape, pretty much,
Mm, mm,
here. But it was looking at this flower, and all of a sudden the flower did the same thing. Light just started coming out of it, just boom. And then the deva in the corner connected with me, and I became the energy of the deva of source coming through me, through that deva into that flower. And I had tears just
mm,
running down my cheeks. It was so, it
mm,
was divine. It was this most divine moment. It changed me forever. I mean, it just like,
mm.
wow, I just can't even, there's no word to describe it. So I kind of feel like I do have a special relationship with flowers, and I love flower fairies, and
So this
and I
is
usually
a new book, did you say?
um
The
this
flower? Or
flower, no, the the new book is more about connecting with them in your home and how to make houses, enchanted fairy houses.
tell us
So
about that. I'd love
it's
to hear
really cute.
that.
It has real photographs throughout it, but
Mm,
it's
mm,
and little wisdoms here and there. But yeah, and then I'll talk about crystals a little bit.
yeah.
You're talking about, do they gift you stuff? Well,
Mm,
I also like to gift them things, right? So
mm,
when I'm out in the forest, of course, all organic. Don't bring,
mm,
junk out in the forest. You don't want to do that. Imbalance it. But I have brought coins before. The gnomes tend to like them, so
mm,
and I don't know if this is funny, because when I'm out photographing, maybe I'll get a tree, and then I'll think, oh, this is great. And I, like, one time I actually got Pan in the tree, like his image of his head and everything, and then from that point on, it was like all the other trees were like, well, wait a minute, we want something. What are you handing out here? So I could feel them, like they'd be drawing my energy over in this corner, way over in all this brush and wild stuff, and I'm like,
mm,
I don't know if I want to go over there, but a few of them I did. But I just tossed, some pennies and things in there, and but they like crystals a lot, little crystals. I like to give little tiny
mm,
crystals, and then the bigger ones, depending on what you get. I've given them chocolate. They like that too. Honey is a good one. And in your home, you can do milk and honey easily. You can put it in little crocks. One time I put one out in a tree stump outside that had toadstool that came out of it. And I was like, oh, this is active. So I said, okay, this is for the leprechauns. I'm going to give you some milk and honey. And then the next morning I got some, because I thought, you know, it's all about abundance, you know, however it comes. And then I got some book orders after that. I felt they were helping me. So it was kind of fun.
Oh, amazing.
So,
I had an experience myself with shell. I put some honey in a
uh-huh,
shell and I
uh-huh.
left it outside, but I left it in a little crack in an oak tree that's opposite my home that we have a sort of relationship, a friendship with. And the next day, I went out to my garden. I've got a little fairy garden, and the shell was back in the garden.
Oh,
Before it back without the
yeah,
honey.
yeah. That's so fun when they move stuff around and they try to
Yes.
trip you out. Yeah, I had that. I have a good story about it. Happened. This fun
Yeah.
thing that happened to somebody else. This lady I knew.
Mm.
She had gone on a trip with her husband and her daughter, and she
Mm.
had this really nice bracelet that was, you know, she was going to go out for dinner that she thought she'd put on. So they got there, and she went to get the bracelet, and it wasn't there. And she was like, "What?" And so they were looking everywhere, and her daughter says, "Well, Mom, you know, maybe ask the manager." And so, you know, that if it comes up, you know, he'll call us. And so, because the daughter was tired of looking for it, right?
Mhm.
So they went out to dinner without it, and they came back. Well, they went back home. They had to. They never found it. She told me 6 months or no, maybe even a year later. She did yoga a lot, and so one day she was in the same place she always did yoga. She was sitting there doing her poses and everything, and then this rainbow just came in front of her. Just all of a sudden, she just saw this little rainbow, and it was like she got this kind of la 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 feeling, right? And so she looked up, thought, well, maybe there's a prism, you know, with our logical mind, maybe there's a prism, you know, in the room or something, reflecting light, and there wasn't. There was nothing. So she thought, well, okay. So she went home, and she was undressing, and in her closet, way to the back, she saw this old jacket hanging there, and something was shimmering in her coat pocket, and she thought, oh. She went and looked at it, and she said, there's her bracelet, right?
Wow.
So, so she said, Laura, what does that mean? I know, what does that mean? And I go, well, first of all, they want you to know that they're there. They're around you. They're in your space. They're playing with you, you know? And secondly, they want you to know that you are not in control. And she goes, oh. So that was an interesting rainbow story, because usually you get the ones about the sky or something, but it was just one that happened right in front of her. They just created it. It was pretty cool.
That's
So,
incredible.
so yeah, they do weird things like that to, you know, get your attention. But yeah, back to the crystals I was going to mention.
Yeah.
One morning, I get up and you know, when you're kind of in not quite awake state, which I get a lot of messages, and that's kind of a lot of our times to meditate too in the morning. And so I heard this voice say, go in your room and take a photo of a crystal. And I'm like, okay. So I did. So this is what I took a picture of, this crystal here. But what showed up is this rainbow fairy right here. It's like there's her head, and then she's got these rainbow colors coming off. And then these blue fairies showed up. That wasn't in the original photograph. I actually watched them make that in the photo.
Wow.
That's what's so amazing about these fairies. They can do all kinds of, what they do is they raise the potential of the photograph. It's always there. See, we don't even realize the potential around us. That's what I've learned. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So they created that. And but the rainbow fairies, they work with all the different rays and help the other fairies work with the different colored rays. So the blue fairies I found is, because I had my last post on Facebook that I did, my blog post showed some blue fairies in the water. I don't know if you saw that. And they bring in the divine feminine into the water. So it's amazing, you know, what they, so yeah, you never know what they're going to do. And when you said earlier, so what can we do to, you know, what our next step is with the fairy? Well, I feel just working on loving yourself, you're doing that's what then you'll know when it comes, you're ready. You know, just keep that high vibration going. Let's see
And
what else we got.
I'm going to ask Laura, why do you think people lose the ability to connect with fairies?
So are you saying like they had it like what was the original connection? What do you mean?
Maybe as children, maybe when people
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
openness to all possibilities and magic and a lot more confidence in nature and playfulness and that fairy energy, I suppose, that we come into the world with. And what's your viewpoint on why people lose that as they go through life?
Yeah. Well, I think we all have that to a degree, don't you? I mean, I think whether it was our purpose or not here, then it's more heightened. But I think most of it is programming as far as, you know, you go into adolescence though, and your body changes. I've heard that the changing of the hormones and that is chemically changes us. But if you're not in that space or that reality that supports that belief system, then it's kind of like, you know, yeah, you can ride a bike later, but do you really want to, or have you done it forever? You know, it's kind of like, I don't think it's something you totally lose, but yeah, it's distractions too, you know. We get distracted here a lot. I mean, you know, and because I mean, at one time you know, just, it's funny because one time I was asking people, I said, so does anybody here know what an inner voice is? And most of them didn't. So, you know, that alone, you know, I mean, connecting with that inner self. We're so out here and we don't have that programming. The programming comes in and it, you know, it takes over. Whereas the ones that grew up in the trees and, you know, in nature, they have a little bit of that comfortability at least. But yeah, I think it depends on what they're meant to do too in the rest of their life. I don't think it's a bad thing or a wrong thing if that happens, but I think that with just practice or, you know, with going within, you could bring it back somewhat. Ask ask a fairy guide or ask your spirit, God, whatever source, how you can bring that forth. And sometimes listening not audibly is listening to me and allowing our hand in hand. So like we're not allowing it to come, we're just asking, you know, because, you know, something could just randomly happen, but if you're not ready for it, you know, then, you know, so like I say, it goes back to that. If you don't love yourself enough to own it, then why do you even have it for now? You can just put it on the sideline until you're ready again. You know, maybe you've gone through a trauma in your life and that really set you back or kind of distracted your, you know, your soul purpose maybe for a little while, but you had to learn something else. You know, you came into experience, so not just that maybe. But yeah, I think it's an individual thing. It's not like a blatant thing you can just tell somebody that's what you do and it's going to happen that way for you. I think it's a very soul individual, you know, purpose thing.
Yeah. Great. So is there anything else that you want to show us or talk about your work, a bit more about your work, Laura, or any other photos or projects?
Yeah, I got a few I can say here. One thing I did want to mention in the plant kingdom, there's a man named Jeffrey Hodson. I'm going to show you the book actually.
Oh, wow.
And he, is that your book too? Do you have it?
No, I haven't heard of that one. That's another one.
Okay, this one, if you can find it, it's kind of, it's not, you know, but I found it on, I think, Amazon. But yeah, this one by Jeffrey, it's a very simple book, but it's just full of lovely stuff. And he's a clairvoyant, and he talks about how the fairies make nature. And so he could see with his eyes, or his third eye, I would say probably. He could see like a group of fairies would go and they would, through certain vibration and light and sound, they would make a stem. And the other group would come and they'd make a leaf. And so, yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know, we don't realize how important, you know, fairies create our environment, you know, so we need to honor them. But that's a good book to read for that. And then another one, couple I like are Tanis Helliwell books. You've probably heard of these. The Summer with the Leprechauns. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
That one is really nice.
Yeah.
It's a real story. It's a true story of her, and she is clairvoyant and a spiritual healer. So she stayed in a cottage in Ireland, and they came to her. So that was, to me, that encounter she had there was very close to what I feel that elemental energy is. So I felt reading it really connected me to that elemental energy. And then her newest book, I believe, which is great, it's called Hybrids. So you think you are human.
Ah, right. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and so she talks about elementals being part of, like, we come in as hybrids, like certain, you know, we're part fairy, part human. And depending on who we are, we might come in as a different, maybe you're part more fairy or part more gnome or part more dragon or elven or whatever. But it's really interesting because she had people come to her and they were she was doing, I guess, past life stuff, and all of a sudden she started getting these other essences with them. So it actually was in real time that she experienced that with these people, and then she's like, well, I got to write about this. So I think that is almost an offshoot of multidimensionality. You know, we're not just human. We come in as part angelic or part, you know, all these different parts, you know, to work with whatever we came to do here. And I definitely know that I have been a fairy before, and I've been a gnome before, and I've had even past life, you know, visions of me living in the trees, and even a brownie once. I mean, there's been all kinds of different things. I've been a tree, an oracle, and or a tree spirit. So yeah, it's like, wow, you know, when you can allow that belief to come into your life, then the doors will open, you know, because until you believe it, you block it pretty much. And so, and then the dryads, I love the trees, you know, and so I'm going to show a few photos of those. This one is, he's up here. Whoops, right? Do you see that? It's kind of far away.
Amazing, yeah.
And then I blew him up down here. And there's a little story with him. So when I first encountered him and I took his photo, I'm trying to get it to where it's not shiny. I thought, wow, ancient master in the tree, you know, that's so cool. He was just, his energy was amazing. And then I heard him say, no, not master. I'm like, huh? He goes, we're all masters. So you got to call me something else. And I'm like, okay. And I heard Beltrip or something. And so I call him Beltrip. Kind of interesting name, but for a fairy, it's a bell and is in the name, you know, it's kind of works.
And there's a doorway beneath him as well. That big fairy door beneath him. That opening. Oh,
this one?
There's lots of faces as well. Yeah,
there's this face here.
Peering out. Yeah, that's really.
Yeah, that one's almost as much as him, but he gets more press. I just kind of, you know, give it. And then let's see. Of course, this one is one of my favorites. It's just phenomenal, really. It's not even. This is not Photoshop. These are real pictures. Yeah. This is what I call the fairy world tree. Can you see that? Let's see.
Oh, yeah, I can see an amazing face at the top.
Yeah. This guy up here. Let's see. This guy up here. I was told he's a prince, actually, and he's a guardian. And a lady that I knew, she does Reiki. She had this in her healing
Oh,
room.
little fairy sat there with like stripy leggings. Looks like to me she's got a little stripy hat and stripy leggings with
We're
long
on the
hair.
left, or we're like here, or
Yeah,
around here.
there. Yeah, she's got a little pointy hat.
Oh yeah, pointing. This are horns.
Yeah, there's two other. Oh, there's quite a few there, isn't it? It's like looking
Yeah,
into.
it's a whole. Like I said, it's called Fairy World. This one's amazing. Yeah, this
Oh,
was.
mm,
Yeah, I took this photo with my cousin's daughter, and
mm,
it was like a black. You know those old black and white movies that they flicker.
mm,
So the light. It was like the light was just flickering, and
flickering.
I just kept clicking, and it was just. I don't know. It was just different. And usually I didn't see that when I've taken other photos.
So,
And
can I just ask about the faces in trees? You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the faces in trees. For people that are wondering, because yeah, I just find it incredible to me. Once I see the face or the figure, I can't see anything else. So I'm just wondering how and why that has appeared there in the tree. Do you understand what I mean? It's like, how has the tree grown that way so that these faces appear? Is it the fairy realm coming through to
So
show
are
them?
you talking about, okay, let me just distinguish your question. So is this more of a temporary face, or is it the way the
Yeah.
tree grew?
Yeah.
Which one
So
is it you're asking about?
so some of them are temporary, aren't they? So it might just be the way that the leaves are and that particular day, and or shadows, or but some of these trees have these
Yeah.
kind of really amazing
Here you go.
faces in them. Yeah, like
Like this?
yeah, and I kind of
Yeah.
feel like I know the answer for myself, but I'd like you just to put it in your words why they would represent these faces for us to see.
Okay. Well, even this guy right here,
Yeah,
okay, it's obvious that's his eyes and nose and mouth, and
yeah,
he's big. He's a big guy. And there's even a little guy up here,
yeah.
but he told me he was the Lord of the Forest, and so
Mm,
um, I think that, well, let's see, I might go a little bit out of bounds with the answer.
mm,
It can be a lot of things. So
mm,
it could be that uh, through anthropomorphism, which is the collective consciousness of the area, it could be that has um, created this formation of the tree. Something there actually was like that being, and
mm,
he integrated into the tree in his consciousness. Also, it could be temporarily he shape shifts just for you in that moment.
mm,
I've had
mhm,
that happen.
mm,
Um, and gone back and it not being the same. Also, the elementals that live, or the tree spirits that live, because the elementals live in those burrows. Sometimes I think they create faces because of that. But the tree dryads, like, the spirits of the trees, don't always show up as part of the density of the tree, the actual bark. To me, they show up energetically, temporarily. They might show up as a face, but it's kind of like a layer that's on top of the tree trunk,
mm,
and I'm seeing it through a higher frequency at that moment because he wants to talk to me, but he
mm,
doesn't want to have to come into full density form.
mm,
So that's another way that you can encounter them. But a lot of times in the mossy trees particularly,
mm,
they'll just create a face in the moss, and you'll start seeing that, or in the, like you said, in the leaves or whatever. It's just when you get to that heightened awareness in the forest, you are a part of their realm. So
mm.
they're going to kind of wink at you and show you they're there in different ways. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, yeah, just because I kind of feel like it's, to me, it's once your heart is open to seeing these images, these faces and figures and forms, they'll just keep showing up. So it's almost like you can't take enough photos. Or,
Yeah, yeah, right. Oh yeah.
it's just
It's
everywhere.
well, it's like
Yeah.
you're in that frequency with them. You know,
Yeah.
you become that frequency with them. And I
Mm.
know you had asked, and when you're earlier about like smells and touch and sound and all that. How do they come to you? Well, smell has been an interesting one. Like they're always in, you know, they like to come in childlike ways, right? So
Mm.
the one time I smelled popcorn, and one time I smelled bubble gum, and I'm like, okay, in a forest you wouldn't smell those smells. So I
Mm.
knew that was them saying, we're here, we're just tapping in. It's very subtle sometimes, you know, the messages.
Mm.
I have heard an accordion once that was in a meditation, and I know it was a being that, you know, we were playing together on another realm, and that was really cool because
Mm.
I like it. I like the dancing and the accordions and all that. But yeah, and I actually felt one once in a dream or a vision. It felt like kind of like silicone, like it was in the car, and I was in this car with me, and I said, "Well, can I touch you and see what?" So he let me, and it was just kind of a quick, you know, touch. But I think he just allowed that so that I could, you know, connect with him.
Mm.
But my main thing, like I think a lot of us have, is just our intuition. You know, just
Mm.
because a lot of what I do is I call it conscious photography. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is I don't just go and walk in the forest and, you know, get a good walk in. I go and I
Mm.
commune with the
Mm.
forest. You know, I become part of that whole community. I usually, when I come up to the greeter trees, you usually can find them 9 times out of 10. Maybe sometimes you don't, but I always say, okay, greeter trees, you know, I'm in your forest. I'm going to honor you and hello. Sometimes I'll give them a hug, and then I'll send rainbows out to the forest to all the trees and the beings and say, I'm here to honor you. It's your home. Thank you, and come and play with me. I'd love to, you know, play with you. So inviting them into your space might help you get better photographs, because I feel
Mm.
like, you know, then they know they can kind of play with you. And one time my friend that was with me, she went behind a waterfall and she took some pictures, and in her digital camera she came back out and she says, Laura, look. And I go, what? And she says, they're all jumbled up. Like 1 through 10 was now 10, 12, 25, 6. They took them all, and
Oh, wow.
they wanted her to know they were there. They were playing with her, right? So I think weird things, you know, like that. I thought that was brilliant, you know.
Yeah, that is really
Um,
cool.
that's really cute. So
Oh.
there's all kinds of little fun stuff they do.
Mm.
This picture, I'm almost done here with the pictures. This one, some trees, not all, I will say, but some trees are portals to inner earth.
Mm.
And,
Mm.
I was actually writing a different book that I haven't had published, not yet, but I had asked them, you know, well, let's take a journey to inner earth. And they said, well, no, I was writing down how trees are portals into inner earth. And then I heard them say, oh, let's go. And I'm like, huh? They go, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, okay. So I went down in this tree with them, and oh my gosh, I came to a whole caverns and crystal caves, and they led me into this huge opening and this huge tree, like an avatar, but like 3 times that big. And then all these gnomes are lined up, about 30 of them, and there's this one in front. He had his hands behind his back, and he was kind of looking at me like he was kind of trying to keep a secret, but it was hard, you know. And I said, so what do you want to tell me? And he kind of moves up close, and he hands me this crown. And they've done this before. It was to crown. And I bent down. He put it on my head, and it was beautiful. And I was very touched. And but I just finished the second book I was finishing, and they wanted to thank me for that.
Oh.
And so I came back up. This is kind of interesting. So I came back up, you know, through the tree up into my office. and somebody hitchhiked with me for a few days. And I was like, so my computer started doing weird stuff, you know, they were playing in it, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So I said, no, you can't do that. So sometimes you have to set boundaries. You know, they're not mean, they aren't gonna ruin anything, but you have to, you know, they're playful. And so I told the big, no, you need to go back down into, you know, the earth, inner earth, and but thank you and love ya, see ya, you know. But yeah, I didn't have any trouble after that, so that was kind of cool.
How amazing. Isn't it amazing, these gifts that we, you know, receive
Yeah,
from fairies, and
yeah,
like you say, these, how, you know, what you've been talking about is the way that they can talk to us in symbols as well, like you said, with the crown and other things.
yeah,
And
absolutely, yeah, the
it's a whole,
hearts.
yeah, it's a whole new language, isn't it, to, for
It
us
is.
to unravel.
There's so many. Yeah, I have like a list that I've made, and probably the most common is hearts, and then walking sticks. They come in that. Like I've known, like sometimes when I've been in situations where I'm a little bit like, well, I wonder if things are going to go the way I think they're going to go, and I'll
Oh,
see somebody with a walking stick, and they'll be like, it's like, just relax, you know, we're helping you, and things are going to work out. And one time I would see gloves. I just kept seeing repetitions of gloves on the ground. And I was like, what does that mean? And they said, we're helping you. And I was needing some financial help at the time, and it came out of nowhere. So then I started, like I was saying earlier, once they know, so now they do it all the time. Like I'll be random places and I'll see gloves on the ground. So they know that that's their language that they've, you know, written with me particularly.
yeah.
I've seen them at railroad stops. I've seen them out Shasta hiking. I've seen them, you know, in the parks. It can be anywhere, really, you know. So
Yeah. I'm
it's
just
fun.
smiling because I've got, I was out in the garden tonight and I've got this pile of sticks that my children and I've collected on walks, and they're all walking sticks.
Oh,
Literally before we spoke, I
oh,
lined
how
against
funny.
the wall. Yeah, they're all different sizes and
Yeah.
stuff, like
Maybe
little
you're,
people talking.
oh, wow. They probably help you find them all. Yeah. I think you're going to be using them too, maybe, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know that they mean support.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cute. Yeah. I feel that's, you know, so much more of what we do is not really our thoughts. I mean, really, it's our higher self, it's spirit coming through, it's the elementals, it's so many beautiful things. And I don't feel like I had a lesson yesterday, actually. I will mention this. So I was wondering, you know, I'm doing my latest, I guess I'll talk about it. I got a book coming out. And I sent some book proposals to different mainstream publishers, and I'm waiting to hear back. Um, but this girl had called me or had written to me an email and said, well, would you like to know something? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, okay, I'll ask a question. And so I wrote to her. Well, the question came back and it really wasn't answered. It really wasn't. And I thought to myself, okay, this is me telling me that I don't need to go out there and get that answer, really. I mean, it's more like, you know, just don't try to control it, Laura. Just let it flow, you know, just it's going to come and it's going to come. And I know that, you know, but you know, I feel like we're more and more becoming more of that potential. Like we're gonna figure it out if we just go in and either ask or just allow it to come. So that was my lesson, and but I will mention the book. Here's the cover.
Oh, wow.
Fairy Houses: How to Bring Fairies into Your Heart and Home.
Oh,
So
so this is out now, or is it yet to be published? Is it?
well, I'm waiting on it. It's finished, but I'm waiting on a publisher. So I'm just, you know, waiting to
Oh,
hear.
wow.
It
Can you
should be
show
pretty
us
soon.
some pictures from the book?
You know, it should be pretty soon.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I love about it is there's little things in here that are fun. Like Mostly they're for adults because these are for to bring inside, to have inside. But my granddaughters, I did one for them. And this picture, let's see. Yeah. Actually, I think I'm going to show you a different one. This is one, and actually the page is coming out so I can show you. This is where I did the lanterns, you know, I was telling you earlier.
Oh, look at that.
And
Yeah.
then it's kind of hard to see because, you know, it's a point and shoot camera at night, but they literally, okay, here's the lanterns in the tree, you can see
Yeah,
that, right?
I see that. I
And
see
then we did
the,
ceremony with drumming and that, and then
yeah.
here's where the fairies showed up with their little lanterns.
Oh, wow. On the ground.
And that's actually right there in the picture. It's where that arrow is, right?
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was pretty amazing. I tell little stories of that throughout the book, you know, but mostly it's. Well, I'll show you the back cover. It shows these are the houses that I show you how to make.
And how
So,
long
yeah.
have you made these for, Laura? Is this something that you've done for a few years, or is it?
Oh yeah, this book
Yeah.
I've been working on about 3 years, probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I had to, you know, I had to like. Well, I made a few, and then I made a few more, and then I kept thinking, okay, I've got to put these other ones in here. So it became like I knew when I was done, you know, and so yeah, no, it's been a long time coming. It was it feels good to have it out there because it's kind of, you know, anybody can make a house, you know, modify it however you wish, but I, you know, I have little signature things that I teach, and it's fun. And the fairies help me. Even matter of fact, one of the houses when I was building it, I asked them. I was at night. I took a picture of this little fairy village that I have in here, and I said, "Would you please show up? Because you know it's for the book." And they did. They showed up with little rainbow orbs in front of the house, right in front of the heart shaped doorway.
Wow.
So yeah, you know, they don't know. I don't always expect them to do that. It's kind of like, you know, you can't expect that, but it was nice.
How wonderful. I really, yeah, I wish you every success with the book, and I can't wait to order a copy myself.
I know. I can't wait to get it out there. I really don't. But you know, I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm just gonna be patient. I've got another month to see who's gonna, you know, take it, and then, you know, who knows? But who knows what's next and all this new world energy that we're dealing with.
I
And
know,
you know,
and it's interesting. Just going back to what you said about timing of things and fairy time.
yeah, that could be different.
Yeah, and yeah, and messing with, because I've had that with technology recently, and I'm trying to get something done, and sometimes it's almost like they put up these little barriers because it's like, well, it's not the right time.
Yeah,
And then tomorrow I'll be fine, and then the next day everything flows, and then it all comes.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we have to learn to allow it to happen, surrender, right, and all that.
Yeah.
And the first book, when I first published it, they told me I couldn't publish it yet. You know, this first one, and I was like, "What?" You know, it took me a couple years to do it, and then they said, "No, humanity wasn't ready for it yet." This was a while ago. This was 10 years ago. So I was like, "Oh, okay," and that was kind of disappointing. But then I learned, like you said, you know, if the energies aren't supported on the planet yet, then they aren't going to be received correctly. So, not correctly, they just aren't going to be received in the way they could be, you know. So, that, like you said, going with the flow, you learn that's just something for anybody, anywhere, at any time. No matter what you're doing.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Yeah. Yeah.
So, is there anything else you'd like to share? Are you?
Well, I guess I'll just kind of, let's see if they have anything. I guess so. It's just, you know, it's real important right now to understand nature is alive and it's conscious and it's alive and real, and Gaia is very, very alive, and you know, working on yourself is helping her. And as we evolve with our own potentials at our own pace, it's not all at the same time, and allow that part of us to grow and evolve, then we create harmony within ourselves. And when we create harmony within ourselves, then we create harmony with the planet. So to me, that is the message of this year, even, is to let go of the old, allow it to come, let it, you know, release it. And then don't question what's next, because we're writing this together. We're writing this script of life. So let go and go in the flow with what's in your face in the moment, and just allow that to show you what you need to do. And just love yourself, and no self-judgment, because Mother Earth and nature hold the ascension frequencies, the ascension energies. So when we go out in nature and we're allowing nature to balance us, to ground us, which is real important a lot, we're actually letting go of the old too, and we're allowing everything in nature to help us evolve to that next level of self. And we're doing it with nature, which is really beautiful. So to me, it's about harmony and peace and self-love, and it always has been, you know. So
thank you, Laura.
so
Lovely
happy,
message. Yeah,
happy trails, my friends. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful, thank you.